Hey everybody, Kyle Goethe here from GoatFilmReviews.com and the Goat Film Reviews YouTube channel, and we are doing another physical media check-in today as we go through my complete physical media collection, and today we are going to be checking out G. Every movie I own that starts with the letter G, I'm pretty sure, but it's a lot of movies, so there might be something missed. I'm going to do my best. And let's just jump right in and get started here. Alright, so up first we have Galaxy Quest. This one I've got on DVD. I don't even know if this one had a Blu-ray or 4K release, but it's a very funny movie. I think Tim Allen probably at his funniest. I think the combination of him, Sigourney Weaver, Alan Rickman playing basically Star Trek actors who post-Star Trek who find out that aliens actually watched their show and became enamored with it. Galaxy Quest is quite a joyful romp. I really enjoy it. And I didn't watch a lot of Star Trek as a kid, so it's not even like it really required me to have that. I just think that it's really a send up of that kind of an idea, and I think it's solid. One of the most underrated comedies, because I feel like at the time people were talking about how great it was, and then they don't anymore. Game Night. I really enjoy Game Night, and part of it is the fact that I'm a big game player. I love board games. I like competition, but like friendly competition, I'm not. Most of the time I lose, and I don't really care. I love that, again, people who play board games don't realize they're actually involved in a real life action film, if you will. Jason Bateman's very funny. Rachel McAdams is very funny. I like the direction. I like that the movie looks like it's like every time they do like an overhead shot of like the city as they're maneuvering through it, it's always made with like board game pieces or made to look like it's a board game. I really enjoy the style of this one. Game Night's very, very funny. And even people like my wife said she wasn't really interested in watching it, and then she watched it with me for my birthday, and she was like, yeah, that was really good. So I think if you've been sleeping on Game Night, stop sleeping on Game Night. Up next, we have Gamera, the Showa era. And I guess if you haven't seen the unboxing videos I did for these ones, I'll put these two together. We have Gamera, the Showa era, and Gamera, the Heisei era. I think someone told me I said it wrong last time, and now I'm not really sure which way to say it. Sitting like that. So they have Gamera the Giant Monster, Gamera versus Baragon versus Gaiaus versus Virus versus Giron versus Jiger versus Zigra, Gamera Super Monster. That was everything in the Showa era. And then in this one, I've only actually seen the first film here, but it was Gamera the Guardian of the Universe. There's also Gamera 2, Attack of Legion, Gamera 3, Revenge of Iris, and Gamera the Brave. I'm going to probably work through a couple more of these films as the Halloween season moves on. Because I kind of consider anything with giant monsters is essentially horror enough for me to watch during this year. Up next, we have Gangs of New York. Has kind of a funny relation with me because I watched it on Netflix for the first time when I was in college. I didn't like this movie at all. Picked it up because it was a super cheap DVD, and I'm a huge fan of Martin Scorsese, so I thought, it's worth me checking out again. I liked it more when I saw it on DVD. Then I came out on Blu-ray, picked it up again, watched it again. Now I really like the movie. Again, I still think it's kind of in the lower half of Martin Scorsese, but Martin Scorsese's lower half is still full of absolute bangers. So I quite enjoy Gangs of New York. It's not his strongest, but even that lower tier is good. Up next, we have this weird kind of... I put this in the G's because it's a gangster collector's set. The Last Days of Frankie the Fly, The Funeral, The Immortals, and Mean Johnny Barrows. I really don't know where I got this collection. I know there was a reason I got it, but I don't know what the reason is. I haven't seen any of the films involved, so I'll leave it at that. I'm going to try and move through everything that I haven't seen pretty quickly. Gangster Squad. I don't think it's a great movie, but it's definitely not a terrible movie, and I think it gets the discussion that it's a terrible movie. It's perfectly serviceable. It's perfectly fine. It's just kind of, I don't know, kind of exactly what you would expect from a gangster picture. Good cast. I think there's a lot of people having fun in the movie, and I think that does elevate my experience of it. It's not great. Speaking of not great, we have the Garbage Pail Kids movie. I don't remember if I bought this because we were going to watch it for my bad horror movie night, or if I was just so curious and it sat on my shelf for a while. But when this showed up at one of my bad horror movie nights back when I lived in North Dakota, we would host almost weekly bad horror movie nights, and I really enjoyed having this as part of it. It's a movie I haven't watched since that time, but I also it's bad. It's not like very difficult to get through. It's certainly a watchable kind of bad. All right, Garden State. I've only seen this once in high school. I didn't like it then, and I don't have a lot of reason to revisit it. I don't know where this came from. Garfield and Garfield: A Tale of Two Kitties. I think this was actually in with the movie collection that I was going through earlier in the year. Check out the previous episodes if you want to see my discussion on the films I picked up while going through things. I think I had the intention of watching these two before seeing the Garfield animated film, so I nabbed this and I didn't end up watching them beforehand, so I guess it wasn't all that helpful. All right, up next we have two films set from Errol Morris. This is the Criterion edition of Gates of Heaven and Vernon, Florida. I have not seen Vernon, Florida, but I have seen Gates of Heaven. It is about, it's basically about pet cemeteries and about pet loss. And it's a movie that I'm a little afraid to watch because of losing my own pet last year. I'm a little afraid to recheck it out, but I remember watching it the first time and thinking, wow, what a tremendous documentary. Errol Morris really gets into the minds and lives of pet owners in such a fantastic way. The movie is beautiful. This also has, the disc for this also, I think it's just one disc for both films, yep. It also has a fantastic 20-minute film from Les Blank, who has his own Criterion set. This film's not in there. One of my favorite special features on a Criterion thing is Werner Herzog eats his shoe. There's a story behind Werner Herzog betting that if Errol Morris could finally finish a film, Herzog would eat his own shoe, and Morris finished the film. So the 20-minute short film is included on this collection as well. Fantastic set, even for someone who hasn't even seen Vernon, Florida. Okay, let's see. That's not really a thing. Oh, all right. George Carlin's commemorative collection. I won't go through all of them because the titles don't really denote too well, but this is a ton of stuff, over 5 decades worth. And it's just like, it's like 10, 15 discs. This is a massive set of George Carlin stuff, and I really enjoy George Carlin's comedy. He's one of those guys that I think he punched everyone, and so it was an equal kind of comic, even though he would definitely, he would definitely kind of have his ideals, but you definitely knew that he could punch every single person equally, and I think that was a fair thing to have in a comedian. All right, up next we have Get Hard, with Kevin Hart and Will Ferrell. I picked it up super cheap on Black Friday. It's not a great comedy. I don't think I laughed. I don't think I laughed once, and it's a little too long. It's from the director that did Holmes and Watson as well, which is another just really bad Will Ferrell movie. Yeah, really bad stuff. We got the 4K of Get Out from Jordan Peele. I have a couple of Jordan Peele films on 4K, and this was a recent upgrade from the Blu-ray set. It was a discounted Black Friday deal. Get Out is fantastic. We did an episode of Kyle and Nick on Film that's about it. Every time I watch this movie, I love it more. I really loved it the first time I saw it, but every time afterwards, I've loved it more. And that's a rare thing to have for a movie you already love. All right. Up next, we have Gettysburg. This is the 4.5-hour Gettysburg film. The director's cut, as it's called. I think this was the one that played on TV, but it also was in theaters for a little bit, too. Not one of those, like, top-tier Civil War films, but it's such an extravagant production. And my wife and I watched it, I think it was July 4th we actually ended up watching. We do a patriotic level film every year on July 4th. And this was one that, we sat through the entire thing. We were totally in on it. There's one battle sequence in particular in Gettysburg that is fantastic. There's some good stuff all around, but there's one sequence that I still think of after seeing the film, and that was the Battle of the Hilltop, where, some of the guys were coming up the hill, the other guys were coming down the hill, and there was like, I don't know, just the way in which it was shot could have meant the end of the battle in that one little portion of this major battle. Gettysburg, it's pretty cool. It's definitely lengthy. It's definitely a little cheesy, but I liked it too. All right, up next we have Ghost. On the cheese factor, we're talking about Ghost. Couple Academy Awards. Demi Moore was actually just talking about this film, like how when she read the script, she knew it was going to be something special, and she was so shocked when it came out and didn't get great reviews. It's of a type. It's definitely cheesy, but that doesn't make it bad. I think the central performances between Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore are so beautiful, and their chemistry, their love, that's what elevates the movie. And so all the kind of cheesier, sillier things in it, they work because the central relationship is so strong. Ghost is great. All right, we've got Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters 2, Ghostbusters Afterlife on 4K, and then I didn't really know where to put this because, like, the side of the thing says Ghostbusters, but I really have it for the other two films. It's a DVD collection that has Ghostbusters, but also has Groundhog Day and Stripes, two Bill and Murray movies. It's a Bill Murray collection. I don't know where else to put this. I guess I could put it with Groundhog Day, but like the Ghostbusters at the top. So whatever. I'm a huge Ghostbusters fan. My favorite's always been Ghostbusters 2. I know I am in the rare minority of that, but that was, I think, the first one I'd seen all the way through, and it scared the hell out of me. Ghostbusters is a great series. I enjoy all the films. The first movie is again, great horror, but also great comedy. Second one, I think, has... That painting still bothers me to this day. It's so creepy. Afterlife, I think, is a bit member berries at time. It's a bit lengthy. It's a bit tonally confused, but when it's working really well. And I don't have Frozen Empire yet, but I was positive on Frozen Empire. It's definitely the weakest of the main series of films. And Frozen Empire, it's good. I like that they do something new. They get a new villain, because that was another thing I was kind of, Afterlife didn't need to go back to, Gozer the Gozerian. But overall, I enjoy the films. I also really like Groundhog Day, and Stripes is pretty good too, the extended cut in particular. I also want to make mention I have the 2016 Ghostbusters Answer the Call. This was, I think it was a title they added later on, but it's Ghostbusters Answer the Call. This is called The Female Ghostbusters. I'm not going to be honest with you. I really like this movie. I've never really understood the hate that this movie gets. It's definitely not like the other Ghostbusters movies in terms of its comedy, but I quite dug the movie. I thought it was really funny. I thought it was really daring. I thought it was really interesting. Nice characters. I like all four of the characters in the film. I think Chris Hemsworth is fantastic as the eye candy kind of character and that inverse. I think it's really great. I enjoy Ghostbusters Answer the Call quite a bit. In fact, I think I would say I might like it. I definitely would put it higher than Frozen Empire. I might put it higher than Afterlife as well. Again, I like all the Ghostbusters movies, and that includes this one too. All right. We have Ghost House and Witchery. These are two films from the Scream Factory dual feature pack. They're both very forgettable. Ghost House is definitely a Poltergeist ripoff. I remember watching it and being like, okay, well, that's certainly a movie. It's watchable. It's fun, but it's not really good. It's not really high quality. And Witchery is actually David Hasselhoff and Linda Blair, which is almost not a vote of confidence, but it's an Exorcist ripoff in a lot of ways, because Linda Blair is definitely playing a possessed person. These two movies are not good. But I also kind of have it in my heart to really enjoy some of these not good movies. They were part of in Italy, they were part of the La Casa series, which I believe the first one was actually The Evil Dead. It was released as La Casa in Italy. And then it's the wildest series of films, because random movies are just sequels to the La Casa series. I don't even know if all the Evil Dead films are included, but I think some of the House movies were included. These ones were included. One day I'm going to go through and do an actual breakdown of the La Casa series, and I think that would be a lot of fun. So we have a 4K of Ghost in the Shell. Have not seen this one. I also have a Blu-ray copy of the remake, the live-action remake, Ghost in the Shell. Still have not seen that one either. We have Ghost Rider. This is the DVD, but it's the extended cut of the film, which is a better version of the movie. And again, I like Ghost Rider more than... I think the director also did Daredevil. I think it's an improvement on Daredevil. I think it's a fun enough movie. I think most of it is Nicolas Cage really just having fun in the role. And Sam Elliott playing the kind of the old guy who comes in to help him out. I think they're a lot of fun together. There's some good stuff in Ghost Rider. It's overall a cheesy, kind of terrible movie at times, but I'm also positive on the film. I like a lot of what it's doing. One I didn't like, though, was Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance. This is the 3D Blu-ray. I bought it because it was a 3D Blu-ray, and I had the original Ghost Rider, and I hadn't seen the movie yet, and I don't think it's very good. But it has been. I have not watched it since it came out. And maybe I'll have increased my appreciation. But Neville Dean and Taylor, they did the Crank films, they did Gamer. I've just never really been a fan of their style. It's a very not for everyone kind of style, and I think I'm part of the not for everyone. Okay, we've got Ghosts of Mars. I have most of John Carpenter's films. I've always felt that this one was very much in the so bad it's good territory. I enjoy watching the cheesiness that's on display here. I can see what Carpenter is going for, but I definitely wouldn't put it anywhere near the top half of Carpenter's filmography. Carpenter is kind of like Scorsese for me. I think the bottom half is still full of some absolute bangers. This one I wouldn't call an absolute banger, but I would still say far from his worst film. His worst films for me have always been Dark Star and The Ward. This is definitely a cut above those while still not being very good on its own. We have Ghosts on the Loose. I don't know really much about this one. I'm pretty sure Lugosi's in it. He's right here. I'm pretty sure he's in this movie. Ghosts on the Loose, though. I have nothing to say about it. All right, up next we have Ghoulies 1 and Ghoulies 2 on another Scream Factory double feature. They're both on Blu-ray. I also have this collection, which does have Ghoulies 3, Ghoulies Go to College. A harder to find sequel, not good. But I really like the first two Ghoulies movies, so I had to complete the set. This set also has Waxwork, which I enjoy quite a bit. And 976 Evil 2, not the first one, this is 2. A very forgettable film. I don't think I've seen The Unholy. I'm pretty sure I haven't seen The Unholy. I think I've only seen half the films in this 8-disc collection. Yeah, I've seen the 4 on the first disc. The Unholy, I have not seen. Chud 2, Bud the Chud. I think it's better than the original. I think it's a load of fun for a very cheesy, very kind of bad movie. Chud 2, I really enjoy. Chopping Mall, have not seen it. Slaughter High, have not seen it. And Class of 1999, have not seen it. But, yeah, definitely Chud 2 of the 4 films I've seen in that collection, my favorite. Followed probably pretty closely by Waxwork. Ghoulies 3, just because at least it has Ghoulies in it. And the 976 Evil 2, which is really just not a very good movie. Up next, we have some Giallo collections here. So this one here is, I think I organized them alphabetically by the color. I don't know. There's a bunch of these sets, so I kind of put them all together. But this is Giallo Essentials. This is Smile Before Death, which is one of the only films I've actually seen from these collections, which is a fun enough little slasher-style Giallo film. Very moody, very atmospheric, but a little bit light on the story. It also has The Weapon, The Hour, The Motive, and The Killer Reserved 9 Seats. I love the titles for these movies, by the way. The other sets that I have here, again, unopened, so, bear with me on that. The Forbidden Photos of a Lady Above Suspicion. This is the blue set. As well as Death Walks on High Heels and Death Walks at Midnight. I think those two films are connected. I think one's a sequel to the other. Don't quote me. And if you know correctly, put down in the comment section, because I could be wrong, but I think those two are related. That's the blue set. Up next we have the red set, which has The Possessed, The Fifth Chord, and the Pajama Girl Case. Again, haven't seen any of those. They're still wrapped up. Horror time this year. I mean, I've got a lot of horror movies to check out, so I should be okay. Let's see here. Giallo Essentials, The White Set, which has The Night Evelyn Came Out of the Grave, which I think I actually already have in another set. The Iguana with the Tongue of Fire, and The Suspicious Death of a Minor. So that's the white set right there. I think there's only one other set, the yellow set, which is actually on its way to the house. So I'll show it off when it shows up, but not in time for the G look. Up next we have Giant, a very giant-sized movie. This movie is 3 hours and 21 minutes. I have not seen it yet, but I picked it up with that collection of films earlier this year. Up next we have our G.I. Joe films. We have The Rise of Cobra on Blu-ray. We have G.I. Joe Retaliation with a 3D Blu-ray. And we have an unopened Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Origins. I have seen Rise of Cobra. I think it was one of those movies that, I was a teenager and I was trying to convince myself that it was better than it was. I also had just gotten my first Blu-ray player, and I just gotten my own disposable income to just spend on stuff. So I think I bought the first film Black Friday. Picked up the second because I heard it was an improvement. I guess it kind of is. It's not very good, though, and it's extremely forgettable. And at this point, since I have them, I also got Snake Eyes. All right, up next we have The Girl Next Door. Remember when movies had unrated editions? That's just not really a thing we do anymore. And maybe it's because home video isn't a thing. Girl Next Door, very funny R-rated comedy. I've only seen it maybe once, though. So to be honest, it's not a movie that it sits in high of my memory. But, funny enough. We have Girls Night Out from Arrow Video. I got this at an Arrow Video sale recently, but as you can see, it is still wrapped up in plastic, so I can't give much info on that one. And we also have The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. This is the David Fincher film. Damn, I'm so upset that we never got the follow-up to this. I mean, I guess we got a follow-up to it, but it was completely recast, different crew. This movie is phenomenal. One of my favorite movies of the year it came out. I think everything about it works, and I'm kind of pissed we never got anything else. Because what a picture. All right, continuing on, we have a 4K collection that has Gladiator and Bravehearts. I put it with the Gladiator, I guess. I don't know. Two amazing movies. I think I'm more partial to Gladiator, especially because this is the extended version of the film. And I hope they didn't do the thing right. Yeah, they're okay. Both versions are on the 4K. Soapbox for a second. I hate when extended versions of films come out, but they're just like on the DVD or the Blu-ray that came with the set instead of being on the 4K. Because like I bought it for the 4K, so why aren't both versions on there or another disc? Like don't lie to me on the outset. But thankfully, yes, the 4K contains both cuts of the film. I'd only ever seen the extended cut of Gladiator once. I really liked it. I'll probably watch that version of the film because I just love the grandiose nature of it. But the theatrical cut's perfectly fine on its own. Not even just perfectly fine. Theatrical cut's great. Glengarry Glen Ross, great play, great movie. Bale, a lot of people give the credit of this film to David Mamet because the screenplay is so like firecracker red. It's wonderful. But I gotta say, without a great cast working the material, it wouldn't be nearly as strong. And this is a great cast for this film. People always call it the Alec Baldwin scene. Again, I get why. It's an amazing scene. But so many of the people in this film absolutely work. Directed by James Foley. This one's great. We have Glory. Have not seen the film yet. I know. I've seen bits and pieces. Our school showed it off when I was in school, but I don't know. I had some teachers in high school that just didn't show the whole movie. So they showed like a half hour, and it's like, well, a half hour I saw Glory was really good. Godfather Trilogy on 4K. This set was beat to hell, but honestly, they were sold out by the time I was trying to fix it. I didn't want to give the set up because I got a good deal on it. So this set is kind of beaten up, and that kind of makes me sad. But this has Godfather Part 2, The Godfather Part 3, and it also, I believe, has... Wait a second. Does this only have... This also has Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone. And I think that version is also on there. Oh, in the bonus discs, it has The Godfather Part 3, so the original cut of that film. I haven't had a chance to watch the new cut of The Godfather 3, but I've always really liked The Godfather 3, so I've never understood the hatred that movie got. Again, it's being compared to two of the greatest films of all time. I think it's a great movie, just not on that level. But there was a while when I liked it more than Godfather 2. Now, don't get me wrong, 2 every time I've watched it has risen up a little bit more, but there was a time when I really liked Godfather 3 more. Gods and Monsters. If you're a fan of Frankenstein, James Whale, this biopic-ish movie from Bill Condon is quite good. I like that it mixes those fantasy elements, like he sees the monster, but it follows James Whale as an older man who's been kind of coming to terms and being more comfortable with who he is, and he takes Ina Gardner, played by Brendan Fraser, who kind of allows him to view the world in a different way, I guess you'd say. Gone Baby Gone. This was a good movie the first time I saw it. I think it's a great movie the second time. Ben Affleck, terrific director. I think it was a smart choice not to act in his first directing film because then he can just focus on what works. We actually just lost John Ashton, who was in this film. He was also Taggart from the Beverly Hills Cop films. So rest in peace, John Ashton. More than Taggart, I think he was also pretty damn good in Gone Baby Gone. Here we have Gone Girl from David Fincher, another Gone film. That's the funny thing about doing these ones, is you see the words that you have too many of in your collection. Gone Girl's very good. Another film like that, Fincher, probably lower half, but so much of Fincher's movies are fantastic. Lower half is still pretty good. We have another Gone with the Wind. Have not seen this one. I have not put around the 4 hours and plus time. Up next, we have our good films. Good Boys. Saw this one in the theater. This, like Game Night, a great time to be in the movie theater checking out comedies. The energy of this screening, I still remember how much fun everyone had watching this movie, and it still worked at home quite a bit. Good Boys, very funny, live-action South Park, as it's called, and I agree with that. Up next, The Good Dinosaur. not the worst Pixar film. For some reason, people keep forgetting that the Cars films exist. The Good Dinosaur is a good Pixar movie, not a great Pixar movie, not a stellar Pixar movie, but a good Pixar movie. Up next, we have Stephen King's A Good Marriage. I have not seen this film because I haven't read the story yet. I decided that I'm going to read the story. It's like, I'll hold on to this until I read the story. Good Morning Vietnam. Another film that I have not seen. Okay. The Good Son. This movie creeped me out when I was a kid because, Macaulay Culkin, he was a good kid from Home Alone, and he's kind of doing murdery stuff here. And I think the ending of this movie bothered me a lot because of the choice that the mother has to make. That really, like, as a child, I couldn't imagine any world in which the mother had a choice like that to make, and she does. Good Son is a very, very solid Joseph Rubin directed film. Another good film, Good Will Hunting. I'm not as gaga about this one as a lot of other people are. I agree it's a good movie. It is a good Will Hunting. It wasn't my favorite from that year. It hits me in a way that I think it's a very strong outing, but it doesn't hold that kind of squeeze on me like it does for so many others. A Goofy movie, one of my wife's favorite kind of, or most underrated Disney films, I would say my wife would call this. Goofy movie, pretty funny little film. I think a lot of it hinges on nostalgia for me, because the more I watch it, the more I'm kind of like, yeah, it's not good, but it works well enough for me. We have some Goons here. We have Goonies, but the real ticket, I didn't buy this for Goonies because if you'll know, I'm not a fan of Goonies. I am a fan of Gremlins, and I am very much a fan of Gremlins 2, the new batch, the superior film, you might say, for those who are, I don't know, perhaps a little bit higher brow, if you will. Gremlins 2, the new batch, is one of the greatest sequels of all time and one of the best movies ever made. I'll fight you on that hill. All right, up next we have Goosebumps. This is the Jack Black starring film. I also have a 4K of Goosebumps 2, a much lesser film, but it's Goosebumps. I've grown up on Goosebumps books. I have pretty much the entire collection, mostly the entire collection. There was a long period where I didn't collect them, but I came across them, and I've been kind of catching up on some of the odd ones too, because there's just something nostalgic about reading these little 100-page horror tales. And if you're looking for a win, you can finish a book in like an hour. Gold Diggers from National Lampoon's. I never saw this film. It's just sat in my collection collecting dust for the past 20 years, I think. The Gold Rush, a movie I have seen a couple of times. I quite enjoy The Gold Rush. I don't know if I can still say this, but I'm pretty sure this is still my favorite Charlie Chaplin film. I could be wrong, and I don't know which version of the film I like more, so I can't remember. I just know that I've watched the movie quite a few times, and I've enjoyed it every time I have, and I think it's still my favorite Charlie Chaplin film, if not very high up on the list. Up next, we have the 1920 horror masterpiece, The Golem. Have not seen this one yet. For some reason, I nabbed that one because there's like 3 different Golem films that came out during that time period, and I think 2 of them are lost. And I think I had it in my head that, like, well, what if this was one of the lost ones? I don't think it is. But, still have it. All right, up next we have Gorilla at Large, which is a very odd little kind of horror movie. I don't know. It's a very hard movie to place. But we also have Mystery on Monster Island, which is a movie I haven't seen. The Graduate. Again, I liked the movie the first time I saw it, and I've liked it more every time I've seen it. This is a movie that grows with you. I think as you get older, you tend to appreciate The Graduate more and more, even though I was in a time period when I saw the film for the first time where it would have affected me the most. I find that I've appreciated it the more distance I've had from my youth. The Grand Budapest Hotel. I was positive on this movie when I saw it back in 2014, but I'm just not a big Wes Anderson fan. Like, I like a couple of his movies, but I find a lot of it to be kind of monotonous, and this isn't my favorite one of his, but I had the tenacity to pick it up and watch it again, and I am more positive on it the second time around. I feel like Wes Anderson's kind of like that for me. Wes Anderson and Stanley Kubrick. There's probably a third. I think there's a third filmmaker too that I'm kind of blanking on. But there's 3 filmmakers that for me I never fully appreciate on the first watch, and I think Wes Anderson's one of those. Best Picture winner, Grand Hotel. I have not seen this one. I picked it up with that collection of films at the beginning of the year. Grandma's Boy. Saw it when I was a teenager. Definitely a bad movie full of some really funny scenes. The whole thing itself is a bit of a lengthy experience, even though it's only 94 minutes. But there are some funny moments in Grandma's Boy, and I'm sure it's better when you imbibe. Grand Piano. Elijah Wood and John Cusack. Haven't seen the film. Gran Torino. I've seen it once. I've been meaning to check it out again. I've been meaning to show this film to my wife, and it's kind of just sat on our collection, collecting dust. Another one of the 8 films to die for the After Dark Horror Fest. This is Grave Dancers. Perfectly serviceable little horror film about people coming out of the graves at night after someone dances on their graves. It's, yeah, again, perfectly serviceable. I don't think there's anything special about it, but slight positive. Gravity, which I think might be my favorite movie from the year that this came out, or might be Wolf of Wall Street. I think they competed. Gravity is amazing, though. There's no reason that this movie should be as good as it is, or that it should look as good as it does, but it really does. This is one of the movies that I lament the most, the breaking of my 3D TV. Because Gravity in 3D is an experience. I still really enjoy the film in 2D. I think it works at home. I've heard people say to me like, "Oh, if you're not watching in the theater, it doesn't have that impact." I think that's bull. Because I showed this movie to my wife when we were at home, and she really liked it, and she would tell me if she didn't. We have Grease on 4K. I don't have much to say about Grease. It's not a movie that I love. My wife enjoys it quite a bit. We recently rewatched it. It's perfectly fine musical. I don't have a lot of nostalgia for it. The Great Buck Howard. I think I picked this up from Hollywood Video when they closed, and you know what? Haven't watched it yet. The Great Dictator, another Criterion edition of another Charlie Chaplin film, and this one again, I know it's not my number one. I know it's not better in my mind than Gold Rush or City Lights, but this is probably his best made movie. And extremely prescient, especially, I think more time that you've given to this movie, the more that it actually comes back and gives back. And I think The Great Dictator, if you have not seen it, that last, everyone talks about the speech, but it's true, that last speech is so great. The Great Escape, this was another war-ish film that we watched on, I think it was July 4th, might have been this year even. I didn't realize that the music by Elmer Bernstein was that music, the dun-dun. Dun, 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 dun. I did not know that until watching the movie, and I literally guffawed and laughed when I found that out. The Great Escape is a very good, long, but very good movie. Greatest Showman, recently upgraded to the 4K edition of the film. I think The Greatest Showman, again, liked it coming out of the theater, and then I had this drive to buy the CD when it came out, and then I just couldn't wait for the film to be on home video so I could watch it again. The Greatest Show on Earth. I think this was a Best Picture winner. I have not seen it yet. I hear it's one of the worst Best Picture winners. The Greatest Story Ever Told. Is that Max von Sydow? That is Max von Sydow. Haven't seen this one either. I like Bible epics, so I think I picked it up for that reason. The Great Gatsby. Again, Baz Luhrmann. I don't want to say Baz Luhrmann's like that either because I've had a few of his movies I just don't care for either way. But Baz Luhrmann, I know that I have appreciated his films on rewatch more than I did the first time. I think every one of his films I've at least liked a little more after I've seen it once. And that's the case with this one. I was kind of extremely negative on it when I saw it. It was one of the last movies I saw from the 2013 release schedule before the Oscars that night. And I remember just being very underwhelmed by it. But I've gone back to it, and it does have an epic rewatchability. The Great Outdoors. Haven't seen it yet. Just got that DVD hanging out. I do watch movies, guys. Trust me. The Great Ziegfeld. Best Picture winner from 1936. Again, haven't seen it. This was in that collection of films. The Green Inferno from Eli Roth. I think it's not his best film. It's a watchable movie. I wish it went a little harder, to be honest. I know people say that this movie went kind of hardcore with the cannibalism stuff, but I wish it went a little bit further, to be honest. He's definitely a nauseating filmmaker, but I think that's kind of what he intends. The Green Knight. This is becoming a Christmas classic for us. We have rewatched it a couple of times. Great film around that Christmas time. I've always been a huge fan of the short story it's based on. I really like David Lowery, the director, who put this one together. A really fantastic fable, and again, definitely has that A24 vibe to it. Green Knight is quite good. All right, up next we have Green Lantern in 3D. I think this has the 3D disc, and I really hope it has a 2D disc as well, although to be honest, I don't know that I'm actually watching the film anyway, so interesting. It's missing its 2D disc. Green Lantern on 3D. I haven't watched this movie since the theaters. I remember not hating it as much as other people, but the more and more I thought about it, the more and more I kind of was like, yeah, that's not good, and that's not good. It's watchable. I don't think it's good. We have a 4K of The Green Mile. One of my favorite Stephen King adaptations, one of my favorite films from the year of its release, one of my favorite Tom Hanks performances. The Green Mile is an all-around terrific film. I don't know that I knew this was a Stephen King film when I watched it the first time, and so like when the supernatural elements come into play, it kind of took me back. Like I was not expecting that. So Green Room. Fun fact for me, this was the first film that I went to a press event for. And so I've always kind of held it in high regard in that way. I'm a huge fan of Anton Yelchin, the late great Anton Yelchin. I remember hearing about Patrick Stewart in this film playing like a neo-Nazi, and I was like, what? And Jeremy Saulnier, who actually just recently did Rebel Ridge, the new film on Netflix, he directed this film. And I saw his first film, Murder Party, kind of on a whim back when I was in high school. So I've kind of followed along with his career a little bit. We have Greg Berent is Uncool, a comedy special that I have not gotten around to watching yet. Gretel and Hansel. I was not huge on Oz Perkins' film, I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives Inside the House, but I took a chance on Gretel and Hansel during lockdown. Ordered the film, had to check it out, and I really enjoyed this one. I think it is a wonderful little fable. That's funny about it is that it actually is not an A24 film, but man, it feels like an A24 film. His new film, Longlegs, is also quite good. That was a Neon release from this year. I really enjoy Longlegs. But I think Gretel and Hansel is my favorite still. Grey Gardens. I thought this was the original documentary. This is a film version of it with Drew Barrymore and Jessica Lange. I have not seen it yet. We have The Grinch on 4K. I was really painting this film in a bad light when I was not painting in a bad light. I was really uninterested in seeing another Grinch take because we have the original film, and I really enjoyed the Jim Carrey version of the film. But I was like, what is the point? Like, why another Grinch film? And I was kind of hitting myself over the head. But we see that all the time. People like, this movie doesn't need to be remade or redone or anything like that. And it doesn't take away from the film. I was like, if I don't like this movie, fine, I walk away from it. But I did like it. It's actually directed by Scott Mosier, who is a producing partner with Kevin Smith. So, yeah, he did a good little job on this movie. Benedict Cumberbatch is a great casting for the Grinch, and it stands apart from the other Grinch films, which I think is important. All right, up next we have Grindhouse. This is the complete edition of Grindhouse with both films featured in the complete 3+ hour package. I also have DVDs of the extended versions of Planet Terror and Death Proof. And over here I also have Machete on Blu-ray. I think Machete Kills is in my other room, actually. It is on my watch list for this holiday season. And I do have Hobo with a Shotgun, which is kind of part of the Grindhouse series, but kind of not. I don't know. I think the film won a contest or something, and in some markets, actually, the trailer for Hobo with a Shotgun was included with the other trailers in the Grindhouse feature film. That was what I picked it up for when Blockbuster closed, with the intention of actually watching it and seeing it kind of play out. But I don't know if I'd count it part of the Grindhouse films. It sits there with them, but I don't know if it counts. Oh, and I forgot the other spinoff, Thanksgiving from Eli Roth. That's also in here. I kind of forgot this movie came out, but it's a very good little slasher movie that is... I like festive slasher movies, and I enjoyed that one. We also have this Grindhouse Sci-Fi Collection, 8 films of a Grindhouse nature, and do I have 3 copies of the Doomsday Machine? My God. I don't know that I actually need this collection because I think I have all these other films and other sets, but this has Galaxy Invader, Kong Island, Warriors of the Wasteland, Cosmos, War of the Planets, The Daytime Ended, The Doomsday Machine, War of the Robots, and It's Alive, but not the baby It's Alive. I have not seen anything in that set. I picked that up earlier this year as well with the collection of films. Groovy Ghoulies. I don't know what this is. It's 110 minutes. I think it might be a couple episodes of something. I really don't know, but it looked kind of funny, so I thought I would give it a look and see what it is. So I'm not making any promises on that one though. Grown Ups and Grown Ups 2. Haven't seen either one of them yet. I saw bits and pieces of one of them, and I don't think they're great. But I was so down on Adam Sandler, and everyone told me Grown Ups was so good, and so I was like, oh well, I'll go check it out. I'll pick it up, and then it's just sat on my shelf, and I haven't really had an interest in watching it though. I think I get the FOMO of like I've got to see that movie, so I go and buy it, and then I don't actually get to use it. We have the Grudge set. These are the American Grudge films. The first one, Grudge 2, and Grudge 3. I also have from Redbox the fourth film, the reboot from 2020. I don't think any of these American versions are good, but I think there's a couple that are fine. That's the best I can do. Home stretch here. We just got a couple left. We have Gruz left. So we have Grumpy Old Men and Grumpier Old Men. I'm from Minnesota. We are legally required to own at least one, if not both, of these films. I actually can't vote in elections unless I have Grumpy Old Men. That's our thing. So we have Grumpy and Grumpier Old Men. I have visited locations from this film with my family on a vacation. So that was what we do for fun around here. Grumpy Old Men, Christmas classic, even though it's not exactly a Christmas film, it's a winter classic. And we watch it every year at least once, sometimes more than that. Finally, we have The Guest. This is Adam Wingard's film, Dan Stevens, Micah Monroe. A very good little thriller. I like Adam Wingard's more horror-centric stuff, like hard horror. This is more of a thriller, but it is a good thriller. And I would like to revisit it, because I saw it the one time, and I thought it was very well done, very well put together. Oh, man, yeah, Lance Reddick's in this. This is a good cast, too. Oh, wonderful. So, The Guest. It's fascinating. It is thrilling. I like that it makes these genre shifts multiple times through. It becomes a different movie almost every half hour. And I think that's part of the charm of the film, is that it evolves as you go through it. So those are all the films I have that start with the letter G. Thank you for joining me for another episode of my complete physical media collection. If you made it this far to the end, be our guest and leave the word Lumiere in the comments section to let me know that you have been to the end of the G's and you have seen The Guest at the very end of the list. Thank you so much for joining me. You can check out all my film reviews at goatfilmreviews.com. You can find Goat Film Reviews on Facebook. You can follow me personally at Almighty Goatman on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and Threads. You can find my other show, Kyle and Nick on Film, that I co-host with Nick Plotchuk from the St. Paul Filmcast. We have new episodes of that show every single week. There's also a link down in the description here for the Minnesota Film Critics Alliance, of which I am a member. There's critics reviews as well as more of my stuff over there. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll see you when we get to the H's. Bye-bye.